This is intended for mature audiences only, so please use discretion when listening. Welcome to Call to Dispatch, the show where we hear real stories from the people who answer the call. My name is Dave. For 8 years, she's walked the echoing corridors of HMP Wormwood Scrubs, working face to face with some of the UK's most complex and high risk offenders. She served as a drug and alcohol worker, a probation officer, a deliverer of accredited behaviour change programs like anger management, thinking skills, and sex offender treatment, and later a victim liaison officer, supporting families forever changed by crime. But after nearly a decade of service inside the prison walls, she made a life changing shift. Today, she's a psychotherapist, helping people heal from trauma and specialising in narcissistic abuse, running her practice at keyforchange.com. Today is the story of what prison work really looks like, the toll it takes, the misconceptions that the public holds, and how those intense years have shaped her path towards becoming a therapist. Today's guest is Keely Tavernier. Keely, welcome. How are you?
All is good. Excited to be here. I love an opportunity to be able to talk about the experiences, what I've learned, what I see about human suffering, but also about human healing.
Yeah.
Always an honor to step out of the therapeutic chair and talk more broadly about what I observe.
I am excited to have you here. I have, kind of followed some of your work, prior to you coming on today. And I know for a fact that there are things that I'm going to be learning today, and hopefully the listeners out there will be learning as well. But before we get into today's conversation, just want to take an opportunity just to raise a toast to you, okay? Because I know that the work that you have done and continue to do sometimes goes unnoticed, but I want you to know that your work is appreciated, your history that you've been through is appreciated, and I just want to raise this toast to you and tell you thank you for your service.
That's a very rare statement, and I tend to freeze when I'm praised. I notice, my nervous system is always a little bit much more comfortable running and trying to pursue the next carrot, catch the carrot, get the carrot.
Yeah.
And even just listening to you, it's interesting to hear my journey reflected on when I'm often focusing on the next achievement, the next dream, the next vision. So, and just a snapshot, a range of experiences in the prison, out the prison, just kind of flashed through my mind, and I had an image of like all the various souls I may have been blessed to have touched and hopefully inspired.
Yeah. So let's get into it. First question: when you were a child, it's something I always ask everybody that comes on. When you were a child, what did you want to do when you grew up?
I didn't have much ambition as a child. I think once I was asked, and I said a hairdresser. So that was what came to mind. And I remember saying it and thinking to myself, is that what I really want to do? But because I felt embarrassed that I didn't have anything, that was one of the first things that kind of came to my mind.
Yeah. So, you've spent some years working inside the UK's prison system, most notably, HMP Wormwood Scrubs. What led you to probation work and working in the prison in the first place? Where did that decision come from?
So when I started my degree, I had a degree with a placement, and you had to do a 6-month placement. And I was fascinated. My friend Jessica had worked in the prison, volunteered, and I was just fascinated by it. And my granddad had lived backing onto the Scrubs, the park. And you see these big walls, and I was always interested about, like, I wonder what life's like behind those walls, and had family members who'd been to prison. So when the opportunity came, as I was trying to get out of IKEA, I'd worked at IKEA had kids young in my early 20s. And so trying to get out of IKEA, my degree offered me a clear route out plus work experience. So I jumped at the chance. I interviewed for the female prison in Holloway, didn't get that. And then I was fortunate enough to get the Scrubs. So that's how I got in there, through volunteering when I was doing my psychology degree.
Okay. Did anyone in your immediate family or friend circle have any reservations about you being in that environment on a daily basis?
Absolutely. I'm from St. Raph's Estate. I grew up there. Duckers and divers, wheelers and dealers aren't far from me. So the challenge is you're working for Babylon. You know what I'm saying? So, plus having to be really mindful, having to be mindful about who's in my car. If people are blazing and the ganjas around me, I can't be going into work next day and the dog's woofing because, you know what I'm saying, I'm been doused with fragrances. So there was a lot of concerns I have. I have a family, doing DBS, family members were also checked out. I've had family members who've been arrested. So to be honest, I wasn't too sure I'd get in, but I've got nothing to lose. So I was trying to get out of IKEA. So for me, it was really important to try. So, I didn't initially start working. I worked initially as a drug and alcohol worker. So, you're deemed to be on the good side in terms of helping people. When I was encouraged by my mentor, Laura Jonah, to apply for the role of thinking skills facilitator, it just so happened that I was employed by probation.
Yeah.
The program's delivered by prison staff, but because of the nature of the role, it just so happened. So I never deliberately tried to get into probation.
Yeah.
I was really trying to stay in psychology within prisons, but this role came along and it so happened to be with probation, which, like I said, meant that I had to be much more conscious about, DBSs and concerns about family members showing up and stuff.
Did anyone have like a strong negative reaction to you being in working in that environment, working for the powers that be, so to speak?
Um, not particularly, because again, probation isn't police, although they're associated. So it's almost like you're working for them, but you're not properly working for the police. Is like the ultimate rejection.
Yeah.
So I think there was nothing too adverse that made me think, oh no, I can't do this. No, and I wasn't in a position where I was going to let, I'm sorry, but if I'm trying to do something with my life and I'm trying to break out of the estate, then I'm not going to let, people hold me back. Plus, I've moved away from, intimate relationships with movers and shakers, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
That would have been detrimental. I was really trying to become a role model to my kids, to get a profession with the ambition, no disrespect to nobody, but my ultimate goal was to buy my own house, to choose the road, to have the audacity to choose the road I lived on, rather than waiting for the powers that be to take me out of temporary and house me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Do
really the goal.
do you remember your first day walking into the prison? Like, what hit you hardest in those early moments of your career?
I think like when you go in the cloakroom before you even get into the prison, and you have to leave your phone, lock it up in that kind of, it's like a porter cabin away from the prison. And then you're waiting, and then go through the metal detectors. Like, that was like, I guess for me, it was quite significant that I was shifting my whole career focus from a kind of customer service role that I fell into, it was the ultimate like symbolic sign that the sacrifices I were making was actually like, look what this trying has got you, like, again in. So it was a kind of moment of pride as well, that through trying and picking up a book and saying yes to a dream, that it was manifesting. That for me was the big game shifter. And I was proud that I took a degree with a placement, because I didn't want to get a degree and then not have any work experience if my only work experience is working at IKEA on the checkouts.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I mean, it's good to have relevant work experience to the degree that you do, isn't it? Because I think today in society, a lot of times people are sort of taking degrees and then working in jobs that have absolutely nothing to do with what they've studied and spent all of that money on.
Exactly. I was wise enough to know that if I get in, I'm a friendly warm disposition, that I'd meet people, and then I've got much more, capacity, gravitas to start to apply for the jobs that are outside of. I was really trying to get out of, where I grew up, you either work for the council, which was like, you've made it, you get a good pension, or you end up in customer service roles. And by choosing to do, I had to do an access course first, did the degree. By doing the degree, starting the degree, I could see that I was taking myself way out of that league.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was symbolic of the importance of sacrifice, faith, determination, delayed gratification. Yeah, I felt proud to go behind the door.
That's good. That's good. So let's talk about, or let's touch on the reality of working in the prison setting, especially as a woman. Now, prisons, rightly or wrongly, they're an overwhelmingly male environment. So as a woman, did you feel that you had to navigate that job a little bit differently?
Well, the thing is, and I say this as a joke in some of the comedy I do, it's a good joke, right? The joke is, ladies, if you're a 5 out of 10 on the streets, you're a 10 out of 10 on the wings, right? And the gal them need to know this, because I've seen many a lady carted off. And the next thing you know, you're on the internet and your face is up and you become a part of the training manual. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Every type of man that you like is in jail. And they will give you the attention that you've never received on the out. They know when you've changed your hair, your perfume. They know if you're in a good mood, a bad mood.
Wow.
They are hyper attuned to you in ways that if you aren't grounded, you can get swept up in it. And I've always said that they don't do enough about protecting, supporting, and being very realistic about working in prisons. Obviously, what I'm talking about are heterosexual relationships. It's not my lane to be talking about same-sex relationships with regards to prisons. So I think, thankfully, because I worked for psychology and I was mentored, I had a psychologist alongside me who would talk to me about the things that aren't in the training manuals. So I felt very protected and very able to have difficult conversations about, for example, things like attraction. Attraction happens in prison. You build bonds with people. You work closely with people. And when I was in the prison, I was also training as a psychotherapist. So I could go outside and talk about those challenges. You become defeminized as well, which I believe has a massive impact on, if you're single, your capacity to attract mates, because you become hyper, you every day you're reading about heinous things that people do. And so that shapes how you are out in the real world. And you become toughened and you become strong and you can challenge men in a way that actually, I believe, over time defeminizes you in ways that you can't quite notice. It's very subtle. Things like the clothes that you wear, obviously, things like subtle changes in your appearance are often noted upon. You're encouraged, it's not in the manuals, but obviously being mindful about how you dress,
Mm,
you know. So you end up kind of having a wardrobe for work and high necks, longer tops to protect yourself. And in prisons, you notice, I observe, this is my observation, that a lot of officers become, in my view, defeminized
mm,
as a part of the role. So it has quite a profound impact um, that isn't always easy to pick up on. I mean,
yeah.
even now I can meet someone and I'll know what watch they're wearing, like the prisoners teach, like the prisoners know, innit? Oh, miss, nice watch.
Mm,
And so it's something that has stayed with me ever since prison. I just notice all these small things that leak about someone's class and someone's status that
mm,
um, I use to this day. So it's a job, and a job role that actually humor is a part of, I think, how we learn to cope. And you're in a world within a world.
mm.
I remember once I had a cut and I needed to go to the doctors. And my brethren said, "What? Don't go to the doctors. Go over to C Wing and go and see the nurse." I was like, "Oh, can we do that?" And I forgot it's a world within a world. Everything
Yeah,
out there is in there. And if you know the nurse on C Wing, and I do, she'll quickly give you a little plaster and it's job done. I was like,
yeah,
oh yeah, forget. It's a
yeah,
world within a world. So the challenge is not many people understand that world. And I think this is where relationships can get blurred. Prisoners and staff do understand it.
yeah,
And I think that is also where the fine lines can get crossed, especially when staff feel frustrated by changes in policy, um, changes that are put upon them that make their lives much more difficult to do their jobs.
mm,
So I was there when a new program was rolled out called New Ways of Working, which
yeah,
actually saw a lot of the respected elders who'd been there for many years taken out of the prison as they were given early redundancy packages. So it's a very it's a fascinating place to work, but I worked for probation, so I worked for another government agency within a government agency.
yeah,
So, you know, lots of dynamics to be conscious of, and you have to, what it's like to be in it to get it.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned the world within the world because a guest that I had on previously, she's a prison nurse over in America, and she was saying how one of the things that struck her was again, it's like a world within a world that you will not be aware of until you're actually in there. And just hearing you say that, on the other side of the pond, so to speak, that it's a world within a world, it just kind of
Hmm.
confirmed what she had previously said,
Hmm.
where like I've just sat here and sort of listened to you talking about your experiences in there, and I'm like, oh yeah, they have like medical care, a whole department or a whole setup of medical care in there because previous to speaking to you today and to the previous guest, I don't know why call it ignorance, but I kind of just sat here and I was like, well, in prisons there's prisoners and there's prison wardens, and that's about it.
Hmm.
But there's whole other units in there. There's whole other systems in there.
Sit into the device.
Yeah,
All
sit.
kinds of issues. Even if you've got a person, if you know who the person is, you should quickly go up and have a little word.
Yeah,
If you've got a housing problem, like it's a world within a world, and it's built on relationships. You navigate prisons as staff through your relationships with all the other staff members, and that I think is fundamental, which isn't in the manuals. It's
mm,
who you know,
yeah.
in
So I'm
prison.
I'm going to ask you something potentially controversial, and you don't have to sort of go into it if you don't want to. But over here in the UK, there's been a spate of, let's say, prison workers having intimate relationships with inmates. Okay,
Mhm.
we're not going to name any names because that's not what we do here. Those that know, and those that don't, there are instances of prison employees having intimate relationships with the inmates. Based on your experience, do you kind of understand how that can happen? Doesn't mean that you agree with it, but do you kind of understand how something like that occurs?
Well, it happened to me. I didn't have a relationship, but
Yeah,
I could feel the pull. And I was wise enough to seek wise counsel,
yeah,
because there isn't a safe place where you can go to and say, hold on, I haven't crossed the line, but I'm noticing
mm,
that, I'm caring about what I wear to work. Hold on, all of a sudden, I don't want to wear high neck jumpers. I want to wear the V-necks. Do you see what I'm saying? These are all
yeah,
the subtle changes. And because I was being trained as a therapist, I was having therapy every week, so I can go back, or I could talk to my supervisor about what it's like. I'm a girl from it's a local prison. I'm from the local estate,
yeah,
so it's not, oh, Haki, how's your mum? Like, bro, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I'd be going to security every day if if I acknowledged all the people I know, put it that way. I'm out of the system now, right?
yeah,
So the reality is, you know, it has it's a process of, I'm there as a helping professional, and you're always looking for someone who isn't just showing up to tick the box. Because
mm,
when you see someone with gifts and talents, you're like, oh yeah, I found someone. We all want to make a difference, and then things slip slightly, and it's in the slip. And if you don't ask, if you don't get help, and you're just seduced by it, that's where people are particularly vulnerable. And let's be frank, in these times, people have other agendas.
yeah,
And let's be frank, right? If I deliberately go in there with an intention to potentially, look, let's say go viral, right? But I know, all right, I might be reprimanded for 3 or 4 years, but I have got a long-term strategy, then that I would naturally assume is a deliberate marketing strategy.
yeah,
However, I am also mindful of coercive control,
mhm,
right? And there's always two sides to stories. I could say that I'm privileged that I was supported. I went to my confidants to say, hold on, I'm noticing myself, like being pulled by an individual and enjoying it.
mm,
Sometimes life at home is lackluster,
mm,
right? And so there's thrill. Remember, all of the emotions are compromising your capacity to think fully,
yeah,
consequentially. So I'm really fortunate that I got the help, and I can see how it happens. I've seen it enough times. I've never delighted in seeing someone's face on the intranet as the next person who's crossed the line. I'm always curious about what was actually going on for that individual in their life, in their
yeah,
personal life, that because it's always going to be emotion,
yeah,
always going to be emotion that has made many a woman, in obviously I'm talking female to male instances, make choices that have caused them incredible pain and suffering to their families, to their children, to their bank balance, to their
mm,
careers, to their DBS. Like, come on, is it worth it when you can't claim none of those jobs? You can't claim no DBS, and now you got a charge
mm,
for what?
yeah. That's some food for thought there. You know, in keeping with the topic of the dynamics within, the prison, the fact that it is such a male-dominated sort of industry, shall we say, environment, for want of a better word. Were you ever in a situation where you genuinely felt unsafe or had to rely on your instincts and skills to kind of protect yourself?
Well, I used to always read Psalm 91 when doing groups. We were vulnerable up there. I mean, who's going to hear a whistle? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, who's going to
Yeah,
hear us blow a whistle when you're in an isolated part? Um, I think one of protective factors was building relationships. But when I was there was a time when they dropped the age from big man jail was no longer 21. They'd send them in at 18.
hmm,
And that shift meant we had behavior we weren't really used to. So there was one time, one of the youngsters, an 18-year-old, had set fire to a bin. And where we are is in between C wing, B wing, like we are on our own. And that was scary. And that's really about the only time I could ever say I really felt unsafe. I have felt more unsafe walking from the prison to East Acton Station than on the wings.
Wow.
Yeah, down there dark.
Yeah, that is true. It is.
Yeah, because in the prison, you know, I just remember thinking it one day. I've actually feel more vulnerable walking from here to there on a late night.
Mm.
But I mean, obviously, once you raise the alarm and stuff, we have walkie-talkies and, we were good.
Mm.
But ultimately, there were a lot of gaps in terms of where staff could be vulnerable. And, subsequently other things have happened that highlight some of those security gaps. But ultimately, I think my personality, being warm, friendly disposition, has always been a protective factor.
Mm.
Because if you're working with 10 men in a room, there's going to be difficult ones. There's going to be a variety, and then they're the ones who support you. I think he's still there. I think there is an incident that happened. I think obviously, stoicism and prison officers' mindsets are something that go hand in hand in terms of as a way to cope. The stoic mindset, which reduces emotion, which I fully respect as a survival mechanism. I am mindful of the use of humor, which would be regarded as inappropriate, but appropriate based on. I think that's one of the worst things that had happened. The things that come to mind are things like, what instantly comes to mind is an officer who was traumatized having to cut someone down.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he's never been the same. And you know what it's like inside, they will send them over to the office so they get put on office duties.
Yeah.
And obviously, if he's doing his numbers, he's got his mortgage to pay, don't want to go yet.
Yeah.
But that, because you see a soul broken.
Yeah.
I think for me, some of the saddest thing, my dear friend, he crossed the line and was crewing, using his role to get stuff in. He was marched out and served 3 years. To watch him break, to be broken and have an early death, was really tragic. I've seen a lot of people broken in ways that aren't about being beaten up by an officer, but actually by the way the system breaks them. Whether it's frustration at employment or how they're treated at work, that often can fuel the crossing the line.
Yeah.
Right? Which then causes a whole nother raft of problems. Or, people who have, who are trying to stay the pension sentence, I used to call it. Because it's almost like once people have done 10 years.
It's a golden handcuff, isn't it?
Jesus God. I used to say, I think the prisoners are more free than us. Because if you hate this job and you don't like it and it's not good for your soul and you stay because, well, if I do another, that's your life. Like,
yeah,
that's your life. That's, from a, like, I just believe God didn't put me in. I didn't get this far to just stay in the job. I couldn't do it to myself. And I could see how it happens in the prison. I could see how probation staff do it. They're not happy. They stay and they get, so the system breaks them. Then in the prison, I've seen, not everyone, that the crossing of the line also happens.
Yeah.
And an alignment with the prisoners who are also frustrated at the system. It can happen really easily.
It's funny. It's funny. I hear you say that, and I've spoken to a number of, and it's predominantly police officers. Okay, I've spoken to a number of police officers and also prison staff where they say they are the ones that administer the handcuffs to people, but in the background, they are the ones wearing those golden handcuffs because they are tied to a job that they would rather leave, but they are chasing that pension carrot. So that golden handcuff is there, and even though they're the ones that are administering the handcuffs, they have the metaphorical, lifelong handcuff until they reach that retirement age. And yeah,
Pension
it's
sentence.
yeah, yeah,
Pension sentence.
yeah,
That's what I call it. And I don't know. I just thought, me and God, I see it spiritual. We have to make a way
yeah,
because I can't do this to my. And I did 8, and I thought I have to go. Like this is
yeah,
not what I did this for.
yeah.
I used to often say I came here to make a difference, and the only difference I can make is whether I write in Times New Roman or Arial.
Mhm, mm,
Even with sex offenders, we're giving them CBT programs. These people need far more intensive work to be able to get to the grips and the bottom of their heinous behaviors.
yeah.
So am I part of the solution or am I part of the problem? You know what? Let me find a way to bring a vision to life that makes sense to my mind rather than
Did
fighting a system that doesn't
did,
want to.
did you see yourself as the solution or the problem?
What I saw was plantations,
Mm,
modern day plantations, where the colonial masters make the decisions, and in the cane fields, Black women delivered
mm,
were often the breadwinners, trying their level best, trying to move up in the system, trying to get, what is it? Trying to either become a qualified probation officer or the next roll up where you supervise a borough. I just felt that they were all very vulnerable. And as soon as anything goes wrong, if you apply and you apply for the senior roles and you finally get it, you're going to get the worst boroughs,
mm.
the most problems. And if anything goes wrong,
It's your fault.
you're in a metro. I could do it to myself. And then at one point during the Tottenham riots, prisons are ram, courts are ram. They said, we're making you redundant.
Mm,
That never makes sense to me. And I just didn't like the power it had over me. I didn't like the power over. I decided to empower myself. So while I was there, I was doing my master's.
yeah.
When it shut down, wings shut down, people are sitting there reading The Sun, kicking up their foot. I'm writing essays.
Mm,
So I'm hustling while I'm on the job to get out to make, because I could see the pathway. If I wanted to be a psychologist, I could see the route. I'd have to keep applying for the master's that's government funded.
yeah.
But I don't always believe in that psychology either. I like humanistic psychology.
Yeah.
So if I have to go their route, I'm going to have to train and learn what they want me to learn. So I think how they want me to learn. And I like this route, and none of that is funded.
Mm,
I didn't want to be in the scrum, rattling around for crumbs. I'll pay for it myself. I'll
yeah.
take a loan. I'll find a way.
Yeah.
I'll take a chance on me. Because too many people get trapped and complain and moan and
Hmm.
become depressed and become ill.
Hmm.
Next thing they're off for 6 months.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing it to myself.
Let's speaking of psychology, let's touch a little bit on some of the work, some of the good work that you actually did whilst in the prison. Let's start with the drug and alcohol work. How prevalent is addiction and substance misuse inside prisons?
I mean, that weren't really my lane. The challenge is everything is political, right? So you've got a
Yeah.
lot of people who are signing up for drug problems. They ain't got a drug problem. They're there because they're trying to bust case, right? So, I'm like, bro, you do not look like you got a cocaine issue.
Yeah.
But if you're playing the game, whatever. So much of it is convoluted and the intention isn't always pure. Now, obviously, people pick up habits in jail. To be honest, a lot of that I was away from because I'm delivering programs on Monday to Friday and I'm out. Obviously, if the cell's got spun and something's got found, you get it, you smell it, you see it. I think it was an honor to be a part of that, to get into people's lives. And the more I built rapport with people is the more that I would see that I think that the bigger issue here is this is an emotional problem.
Yeah.
Drugs is a problem with difficult experiences. Drugs and alcohol are a way to cope with difficult things. And I think for me, it just reaffirmed that this is the route I need to go. Psychotherapy is the route I need to go. So it had a lot of value. The programs had value. Being able to hear somebody's story was incredibly valuable. But ultimately, it just reasserted that I think there's different ways to help people.
100%. Let's touch on the behavioural side of things then, namely the thinking skills program. Did you see real transformation from anyone, or was it often just compliance?
Well, the Thinking Skills program is an accredited program. So that means a probation officers, you have to do this, which affects somebody going out. So the motivation is not all, what you have two types of motivation, internal, external. So there's an external reason, which is fine, right? But, you can always tell the people who are inspired. They might ask for a book, they'll attend, they're on time, they're engaged. For me, that was always the most, watching someone go through that process of like, I got to come here in it, probation said, to like a light bulb switch. And I've, bumped into many a soul on the road who have moved on, whether it's in Westfield or sometimes a disco, that has taken some lessons. It's not everything, but you've also got to be looking at what else somebody else is doing, how best they're making the best of their time.
Yeah.
For me, when somebody wants to read, I think that's always a great sign. People, I just, because it's spending time with a book. It's opening your mind, and everyone who reads the book is going to activate their own interpretation, their own imagination. I mean, like that for me, especially Black men who are like, Miss, you got anything for me to read? Like, oh, that book was good. Like, I'll give them like Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell. Like, I'm giving like it's the greatest inspiration. And apparently that's contraband, so I should have been marched out, right? But I'm bringing
Really?
in, yeah, because there's a library.
Okay.
I'm bringing in my own stuff, right? Right.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's my personal books and I've bought them and I'm like, this one ain't in the library. They're going to take 6 weeks. If I've got them in my office, because that's what I'm there for. That's really what I'm there for. And let's not forget things like other factors in prisons, like the chaplaincy. We end up working hand in hand with each other because, they've got access to a different resource. They offer help and support, whether it's the imam, the Catholic one, the Christian one, the Hindu one. We all kind of work together to endeavor to try outside. Like, so it's really beautiful and it's reclaiming the mind. And you know what it's like? It's not like things just stop when they get released and they never come back. Sometimes it's a process.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a process. And someone coming back in for a lesser crime, like, oh, miss, I'm not doing this, but I'm doing this now. On one hand, it's not good, but on one hand, it's actually progress. I was there when there was a lot of IPP sentences, and IPPers were in a very difficult situation, indeterminate public protection, because they'd get a tariff and they'd go over their tariff and they still weren't released. Yeah. And these were young men trying to, sustain their, whilst they waited and waited. They've ticked all the boxes. They've done all the accredited programs and still they're not allowed out. So how do you sustain your mind when everything around you is making you, disempowerment is one of the most fundamental factors for mental health problems.
100%.
Disempowerment. How do you maintain your mind when you are disempowered, when you don't have a clear date? You know, we was a very tricky time, very tricky sentences. Young men being issued, and I'm not saying this right, you know, but not having a release date is very difficult on the soul.
Did you ever see anyone break under those circumstances?
Yeah, you'd see people break. Obviously, being broken means obviously you're being carried foot first to the seg. I've seen that many a time. And respect to like what they do is not easy at all. You know, what they do is not easy at all. And it's really sad. And you can see that, you know, some of them, they're not gonna have it, but listen, bro, you either go or they're gonna carry you in it. It's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening. But it's not something, you know. And obviously coming into work and there'll be notices someone's committed suicide. You see it and you think, but straight away you think, please say I don't know, and please say it's not one of mine. Please say it's not one of mine. You're looking for the name.
Yeah.
You're like, phew.
Yeah.
You know, phew. I never had one. So, yeah.
In your opinion, what are the biggest misconceptions that the public has about inmates?
It's all good and well when everybody in your family is law abiding and nobody's ever, you know, got sentenced. No one cares until it's their Johnny. Until it's their Johnny, you know, who might have, you know, he strayed off, you know, got into the wrong crowd. Then people want to know what help's available. Who can I speak to if I'm worried about him? He says he's going to kill himself. Now it's very different. People don't care until it directly hits them personally. And when it does, you know, they need to take heart that there are good souls in there. There are good officers in there. We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Every day I drive a car, I could be done for manslaughter, for example, if I, heaven forbid, ever hitting. You see what I'm saying? Like, by God's grace go I. It's all good and well to sit on judgment and look down upon people. And it's a world that, you know what, society doesn't have to know. Society don't have to know. I don't want to know about a morgue. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be trained on morgues and this is what happens and this is what they do to you. I don't want to know. Like, if that's what they do at the hospital down the road, cool. I don't want to know. So generally, you know, people are entitled. It's only when it's on their front doorstep do they care.
Yeah.
And my hope is that should they find themselves in that situation where you know, prison officers often call us the do-gooders. Oh, here comes the do-gooders. And they're not your clients, they're inmates, right? Interesting, prison has got a lot of things in place that society doesn't have in place anymore. You've got community. You've got people handwrite stuff. If you go out and come in, we notice. If you go on a food protest, you notice. Me and you could be sitting in our house now and not eat for 3 days. Do you think anybody would care? Right? You do that in prison, that's a problem. Someone's noticed. So there are a lot of reasons why people go. I've watched men get released in prison and stand at the front door banging to come back in again.
Really?
Many a time.
Wow.
Rearrested and had to come back in on the Monday because I could take it out there. Like Shawshank Redemption psychology, right? Because you've got family relationships. Sometimes I used to say to brethren, don't you feel like you're the sort of surrogate mummy? We like the mums and the dads. It's a fascinating place. People still write hand letters. People write cards. It gives you space to think. Look at you and I with all these devices. Mm-hmm. It gives people space and time to reflect. It gives people time out. So, you know, people don't need to care. People don't need to care. Obviously, if people are affected by crime, it matters. Victim liaison officer, I'm the person having to call up to say, you know, the status of an inmate who may have done heinous things, murdered someone, to a parent. not nice.
Yeah.
You know? And obviously people will feel shortchanged and frustrated about, you know, someone getting released, or people who commit further offences while still unlicensed. And yes, they want to know that there's a robust system. And as you know, it's very difficult when it's underfunded. The experience is walking out the door. You've got young, fresh-faced graduates wanting to do their best, dealing with complex personalities, very complex personalities with social, political concerns.
Yeah.
And the breakdown of society generally. Not everybody in there is, you know, fitting stereotypes. Many a successful individual, you know, the ones who are in for tax evasion, they get heavy sentences. They messing with king's money. That one always is very interesting to see. So
Yeah.
my hope is people take reassurance that there are good souls and there are good agencies. And I encourage anyone, get into the chaplaincy. You know, get to the chaplaincy. I'm not saying find a religion, but trust me, it helps.
Yeah.
While you're there, why not? See if the God thing's for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. Let's transition to your work, you know, after your stint working in the prisons. So what was the moment, or was there a series of moments that made you kind of realize it was time to step away from the prison system?
When they wanted to make me redundant when the Tottenham riots were kicking off.
Right.
That's when I knew I have to take back my power, because this don't make no sense.
Yeah.
The prisons are heaving. That for me was the game changer. And that when I was at a probation meeting that day, I sat down and I drew my logo. I drew it out. And I said, it's going to be a key.
Yeah.
Because I was always with keys in the prison. My name's Keely.
Yeah.
And then I thought, key. And then I had to think about, who do I know who could design it for me? My colleague who I presented the program with, Emily, her husband had just started a design business. And so I asked him if he'd do it. And he did it.
Yeah.
And then I had a vision. And then everything became about how best to prepare myself. And one of the things I do, and I don't think many people take this option, is I took a 5-year sabbatical.
Okay.
Because that is also an option for people. And I saw many people take sabbaticals, often white folks who are, you know, elder in age, who would go for sabbaticals. And I'm like, well, why can't I? I swear statistically, if you went to HR and said, you know, if you did a profile of people that take sabbaticals, hardly any of them are brown. We just graft and work and graft, trying to climb up, get to the next ladder. So what I did was, firstly, I applied for a year sabbatical. And my senior, she'd seen what I'd been doing for many years. She gave me the year. So I tested it to grow my business, built relationships with agencies in the prison. They gave me my first, they blessed me with a contract. And then 2015, another big change came where probation was going to be split between CIC, and they split it all up. And we had to come out of the prison and go into the community. I didn't want to go the community. I didn't want to do it. I'd heard stories that probation in the community is far worse. Like prison, you've got a captive audience. They like you. You're helpful to them. They want to get out.
Yeah.
In the community, it's a different story. So that's when I took the 5 years. So from 2015 to 2020, I was out building my business. And I went back in 2020 because I needed to get a mortgage. Yeah. And my accountant said I couldn't get it on my self-employment wage.
Yeah.
Went back for a year, did victim liaison, got the mortgage, and then I resigned.
Yeah. So you're now a psychotherapist specialising
and a homeowner.
Oh, you know what? Round of applause. Because
made it out of the hood.
We made it out of the hood, mama. So You know, a psychotherapist specialising in narcissistic use. Through your platform, Keep a Change, what drew you into this very specific area of work?
Because I kept dating them.
Shouldn't laugh, but
It's the truth.
yeah, yeah,
I love a bad man. She love bad man. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So in my younger years, that's what I was drawn to. And so, then you're developing the thing about being a psychologist and you're working in jail. You're still around bad boys and good girls.
Mhm.
There is it's a very interesting dynamic. We think we can convert them, which
Mm,
doesn't happen.
mm,
They convert you, they will break you down. And a lot of women don't get this. So I was just perplexed because I was like, well, if I struggle with this, surely other people do. And I was happy to talk about it because I'd been working on this for many years through working in prison. And
yeah.
obviously working in prison, I'm dealing with a lot of, you know how that goes, psychopaths,
Mhm.
narcissists, sociopaths. So I'm not just a scorned woman who is like, come to me, I can help you. Like, I know it's from inside out, backways, sideways, personally, professionally. I've worked up close with these individuals and I understand the psychology of people pleasers.
Mm.
So fundamentally, I market myself on, stop attracting narcissists, but fundamentally, I'm attuned to my client group are people pleasers and unlocking their potential.
Now, I've heard, okay, that, and maybe you can confirm this, but I've heard that narcissists just find ways to attract or reel in empaths. How
Yes,
true? How true is that?
it's the yin and the yang. You've got selfish vs selflessness. People pleasers, empaths, highly sensitive people are hyper attuned to the needs of others. That's their trauma.
Yeah.
Not to say the narcissist doesn't have their own trauma, they do, but they're not open and vulnerable. They don't want to do vulnerability.
Mm.
So their work can't happen. I'd be hungry if I was waiting for them to come to me. People pleasers' ambitions is to appease, please, calm the waters. They're conflict avoidant.
Mm.
And so it's the perfect yin to the yang. It's the yin to the yang until the people pleaser gets to the point where it breaks them.
Yeah.
They have to realize no matter how left, right, up, down, they can't get them to love them, to like them, to be kind to them. So it's the empath's ego that I'm actually therapeutically contending with
Mm.
because they don't want to let it go often. But they're holding out for the mother. If it's a narcissistic mum, naturally we want the mum to be the mum who we have in our mind's eye.
Yeah.
So there's often a fantasy reality distortion. They're trying to live the fantasy. They're always trying to realize the fantasy.
Yeah.
And my duty is to keep them grounded in reality.
In your opinion, what do people misunderstand most about narcissistic abuse and recovery?
It's not the narcissist. He's a
Oh,
window into you. No,
wow.
he's a window into yourself. Every relationship is a window into you. I have to teach you how you are doing it to yourself. And you're going to do it to yourself in ways that are unconscious that you don't see.
Mm.
I have to raise your awareness so you start to notice that with every kind gesture, you also have an intention.
Mhm.
You have to check your intentions. You have to check your intentions.
Wow. That is food for thought, and that's something I've never heard.
Mm. The only issue I have is when coercive control kicks in,
Yeah.
autonomy is gone. Autonomy is gone. Their capacity to think for themselves is gone.
Yeah.
And that's when I know someone's outside of my region. Because sometimes they come to me, but they're very fearful. They're really scared. They have to pay cash. They don't want no transactions online.
Mhm.
But you can almost see when you speak to that individual that something's gone there. is too far gone.
Yeah.
But the sort of average challenges, as long as the individual's open and they have to catch themselves, they have to develop the deepened self-awareness to catch themselves, you know?
Yeah.
And then to pull back from their behaviors that often show up as good. This is where dark empathy comes into it. But there's an agenda. And then the empaths often have resentment, bitterness, and frustration. Why? Because you had an expectation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what you have to understand. Because if you're bitter, resentful, there is an expectation. What was the expectation? Check yourself before you wreck yourself. They're not doing it to you.
Mm.
If you feel resentful, bitterness, don't give. Then you won't feel those things anymore.
Yeah.
But you see, often the problem is the relationship will dwindle, and that's what they don't want. So they don't want to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. Because letting go sometimes is the hardest part, isn't it?
Well, it depends. The holding on is actually what's crippling you. Because you say you don't want no mental health problems. Well, keep holding on then, make a choice. I'm a massive advocate of free will. Viktor Frankl's viewpoints, right? Free will, God gave free will. But then I will teach you that you're doing it to yourself. So when you come and you're hurt and you're angry and you're disappointed and bitter, that's fine. You made choices.
Yeah.
Before, when you don't know, they're unconscious choices.
Yeah. When
they're conscious choices, you are now self-harming. And that's your choice. I respect free will.
Wow. That is powerful. That is powerful to hear.
Sorry, I'm not the therapist for everybody, and I tell people I'm not the therapist for everybody.
So after everything that you've seen, the victims, the offenders, the trauma, the emotional manipulation, the institutional pressure, what has all of this taught you about people?
We're a beautiful species. Our resilience, our creativity, our capacity to adapt never ceases to amaze me. We are creation of the Creator in the flesh form. Yeah. Thou shalt not worship Gucci, Armani, and Prada. You're not slapping down to the Mecca of Bicester Village to go and get your items to worship. You know, people are so disconnected from source. It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
However, calamity and adversity has a way of bringing people. You know? It's the Matrix. Red or the blue pill.
Yeah.
It's serious times. Serious times we're in. And if you don't have a relationship with source, I get it. Stay for the Land Rover. Stay for the lifestyle. Choice. Free will. And the uncharted path isn't easy, and neither's the one that's laid out of stereotypes, low level fulfillment, mediocre living.
Yeah.
To be authentic is the revolution. To have the audacity to be authentic, to believe in yourself is a revolution. We're not being encouraged to believe in the brands, to believe in something outside of self. That's the revolution. What is the dream? What has God placed in you that needs to make manifest of itself? That's your quest in life, I believe.
Yeah.
And when we are disconnected from that, naturally the organism will be sad. I'm not down with the whole mental health thing. I'm down with, I think the mental health thing has a whole political agenda. Let's push the mental health agenda, make everybody think that the problem is them and they should change their thinking, while society actually makes people ill. So if we keep programming people to believe that something's wrong with their brain chemistry, naturally we'll provide the solution with chemicals.
Yep.
We'll label you, which we know has great hindrances for people as well, career-wise, right? So you don't have to take any responsibility for yourself. Oh, you're bipolar, here's some pills, right? What if that is, from a survival instinct, the best way that you learned to cope with what you've been through. I see humans through survival lenses, how they learn to survive. Those are survival coping strategies that may have served them yesteryear. They no longer serve them now. How do you for me, I have to help someone to understand that and support them if they choose to make different choices. What's their path? What do you love? What have you abandoned?
Yeah.
You know? And if they make choices, it doesn't mean you leave your job, you leave your husband, you leave your house, you walk out. But every day, can you make small, steady steps in the direction of your dream?
Mm.
Can you face a fear, try something different, and notice what occurs? It
Yeah.
could be going to a tap dancing lesson, an art class, like it's nothing extreme.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
That is a beautiful way to see it. So we are at the part of the show where I like to call it the legacy question. It's the final question of the day that I like to ask my guests. And it's everyone gets asked the same thing. So if you could leave one piece of advice or a lesson from your time in the prisons and outside of the prisons that you would want every listener to carry with them, what would it be?
Faith,
Yeah.
the antidote to fear. Faith is the antidote to fear. We're being programmed to be fearful.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, but faith. We
Yeah.
walk by faith, not by sight, but we're caught up in our humanness.
Yeah.
I think we all have a quest, and the quest that is put upon us requires faith.
And not a lot of people have that, or it seems like less and less people have that these days.
They're filled with fear,
Mm.
you know? Faith. Faith seems like an abstract concept, but I've never met someone who never had something inside them. But it requires faith. I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be at SRF today to be here where I am if I didn't have faith.
Yeah.
Sometimes I even think I'm mucking about. I should be somewhere else, but where should I be? I'm right where I need to be. See what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
even that is like the system saying, what, bigger house, bigger this, bigger that. Everything is perfect.
Yeah.
Pain can be made purposeful. You have to extract the lessons. If you don't find the lessons, you're going to keep repeating the class. What's the lesson? What's driving you higher? It's faith. Faith is over fear. Faith. You got to step out on faith, to trust, to abandon outcome. Like what we talked about at the beginning. Abandon numbers, abandon statistics. It's a process. A lot of us humans have become hijacked by outcomes. It's the process.
Mm.
So because the numbers aren't there, people give up. And you got 3 likes. It's not about numbers. And yes, numbers matter. We are creations of the creator. We're here to create, not just consume. Be
Mm.
careful of your Netflix subscription and keep you consuming. If you're consuming, you can't create.
100%. That is
Amen.
that is a powerful, powerful, powerful lesson. And it's something that I am hopeful that many people will take on board because you are spot on. We
Bro,
are
we don't watch the numbers.
yeah,
One soul, if you are the soul, even if I'm reaffirming that to myself, we're
yeah,
good here.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
Bun the numbers.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Soul to soul.
yeah. Keely, I want to thank you for your time today. Uh, this has been an eye opener for me in many many ways. I had no idea just how impactful something as simple as being in prison, being made to do all of these courses and whatever tick boxes, and then you get to the end and there's no date of release. Just how soul crushing that can be. I never thought about that. I never thought about that. But hearing you say that, my heart goes out to those people because I know that there are so many people in that position. So
And then
I
they
want,
started to sue them. They
yeah,
started to sue the government
yeah,
because they've done everything they've been told to do. I think they've stopped IPP now. They had to
yeah,
because they were ramming up the prisons and then had nowhere to put. Where could they go? There's nowhere for them to go. They couldn't even get them on the programs because they didn't have enough staff to develop to deliver the accredited pro. It's tragic, man.
yeah.
And as you and I know, right, the public don't want to hear that, right? Lock them up, throw away the fucking key. It's all right. It's not your son.
Mm. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? For our listeners who want to follow your work closely, can you tell them where they can find you, be it social media, YouTube, wherever?
Keyforchange.com. If you go to my website, you can find all the links to my socials.
Brilliant. So just to reaffirm, that is www.key4change, and the 4 is the number 4 change.com.
And FOR, we got them all, baby.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Keely, thank you for your time. I hope that you have found this useful, and I hope that you've enjoyed yourself today.
Honored. Thank you.
Thank you. Some stories stay with you long after the mic turns off, and today is one of them. To Keely, thank you for taking us inside a world most people never see, and for showing us the strength it takes to walk through danger, complexity, and human darkness and still choose compassion. Your journey from the echoing corridors of a prison to the quiet, transformative space of therapy is a reminder that healing can grow out of the hardest places, and that change, real change, is possible when someone is willing to stand at the crossroads and guide others forward. And to our listeners, let this episode challenge the assumptions we carry about prisons, about the people inside them, and about the professionals who hold those environments together. The work is unseen, the emotional cost is heavy, and the impact reaches far beyond the walls. Until next time, stay curious, keep listening, and honor those who serve by hearing their stories. This is Call to Dispatch. Thank you for listening.